What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my Studs and Duds series, the most comprehensive weekly NFL player review series on the internet. It is one of the things I am most proud of, and this week is going to be a different format, if you will. So we took last week off, meaning we did not recap Week 11. That is going to be here. We're going to recap Week 11 and 12, and we're going to have to break this thing up into two different episodes. And we have the NFC here today, hoping to get the AFC up this evening as well. If it does not make it up, it will be up tomorrow. There's a lot of work going into reviewing the last 2 weeks, going through the film, updating the Madden roster that these ratings are tied to, and then, going through the graphics, doing this recording, the video editing, getting it up, all that stuff. It's a lot of work. So speaking of that work, if you want to support this series and support everything I do, not just here on YouTube, but with the Madden roster as well, please do consider supporting me on Patreon. It's patreon.com/ThatFranchiseGuy, where you will not just support me, you will also get exclusive access as well to certain content. You get access to the Patreon mailbag for the podcast. You get my weekly picks every week. And we are just a month away from draft season. We're going to have exclusive film prospect breakdowns, taking a look at how I evaluate college players, and even closer to the draft, team-specific 7-round mock draft. So lots of great content over there on Patreon that you can get, as well as support the roster, support the channel. It's a great deal if you ask me. So let's get into it. We're going to do the star and dud of the week for both conferences. So the NFC star of the week is going to be Jeremy Chinn, rookie safety for the Carolina Panthers. This dude is doing his best NFL LeBron James impression. The guy plays pretty much every position on the defense that is not defensive line. He plays, he lights up the box score in LeBron James fashion, when he's got 20 points, 11 assists, couple blocks. That's Jeremy Chinn. A sack here. Actually, I don't know if he has sacks. I know he has 9 pressures on the year, but forced fumbles, tackles, pass breakups. He plays everywhere. He does everything for this defense. This was a prospect that I was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I like the value. This is about where I would have taken Jeremy Chinn for the Carolina Panthers. Love the landing spot as well. But a lot of times, these freak athletes, especially coming from lower levels of competition, teams just don't figure out how to use them, or they just don't kind of click at the next level. There's always a boom or bust aspect with a prospect like Jeremy Chinn. For every Jeremy Chinn, you've got a Josh Jones for the Green Bay Packers, or who's the Clemson safety, TJ Green, that's bounced around the league. He was just like those guys, but Jeremy Chinn just flies to the ball. He has that it factor as a defensive player. Yeah, he's at his learning curves, especially in coverage. He's missed a lot of tackles, but that's the biggest reason, honestly, he's coming up here. He's only missed, I want to say, 3 tackles over the last 4 weeks after having 20 or so missed tackles on the season. So really starting to break down a little better at the point of attack, becoming a more consistent run defender, just doing everything at a really high level. The coverage grades have been much better, although honestly, if you ask me, he's been pretty solid in coverage all season. So really impressed with what we're seeing from Jeremy Chinn. Panthers fans are excited about him. Probably the front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year at this point in time. The first player in NFL history to score consecutive touchdowns on consecutive plays. So Jeremy Chinn fastly rising here. And then the star of the week is, the dud of the week is going to be none other than Tom Brady. Just has not been good over the last really 6 weeks of the season. I've waited. I've said he's Tom Brady. He's got to figure it out. He's got all these receivers. He's got an offensive line. He's got a good offensive coach, and it just hasn't happened in any phase of the game. Look, we know that he's not athletic. That was never going to change. The arm talent has never been elite, but it's starting to drop off a little bit. He still has a good arm, but certainly not a great arm. And it's showing. He's not fitting it into those tight windows at a consistent basis. And most importantly, he's really struggling to push the ball down the field, utilize the entire breadth of the field in the passing game. It's a massive problem for Tom Brady right now. But it hasn't been there in the short game either. And I mostly, I would put that more towards Bruce Arians for not really modifying his offense for Tom Brady. We know Tom Brady's probably the best short to intermediate passer in NFL history. But the mental side of the game, Tom Brady has not been able to outwit defenses because of an unfamiliarity with the scheme and these receivers. And if you want to talk about a Madden rating, that's the awareness stuff. He is not a mentally sharp quarterback right now for the Tampa Bay Bucks. And you take that away, you take some of the physical traits away that weren't there to begin with, and what are you left with? Like the 15th best quarterback in the league? Something like that. I'm not afraid to say that Tom Brady is just not a top 10 quarterback right now. He had a great start to the season, but he's actually gotten worse as the season's gone on. Almost in a, reminiscent of some of these Drew Brees seasons over the last few years. And at this point in the season, it's now December, and I'm kind of tired of waiting for this offense with the best group of receivers in the league, with a great offensive line, with the GOAT at quarterback. I'm kind of tired of waiting for this to blow up. You're seeing, to me, just a very average offense run by a very average quarterback. So Tom Brady is going to come down for those reasons. Then we've got the not game by game, team by team breakdown here. I know all you guys want those timestamps down below. I try to get them in a normal week, but not going to have time to go through and get those timestamps. Just know that we are going in order of team name here. First letter of the name of the team. You guys can figure it out. You can click through and figure out where your teams are. I have faith. So the Chicago Bears are going to be starting off here. And again, it's kind of normally we'd be able to say, oh yeah, last week against the Packers. I'm not going to stop and analyze which game this movement is necessarily from every week. Just know it could be from one of the games. It could be a conglomerate of the two. You guys can kind of piece that information together as we go. But Mitchell Trubisky, this is going to be because of that Packers game, obviously. And his career as a starter is, it was officially done before, but just add another nail to the coffin, I suppose. He's technically going to get another opportunity this week against Detroit, but man, this was just ugly. You would think after sitting and reflecting on your failures with all the physical talent that Mitchell Trubisky has and the receivers that they have here, that he could come in and just not do that. But the turnovers, the decision-making in the passing game, the inaccuracy, it's just everything. This guy is not an NFL starter. He is in the Jeff Driscoll, Mike Glennon tier of the world as a backup quarterback with physical talent. Mike Glennon might not have been the best example there, but you get the point. He just is not a good quarterback, and no one's going to disagree with that. So he's going to come down 2 this week. Mario Edwards, +1. This has been a nice find for the Chicago Bears, kind of a rotational defensive end, kind of a flex type of guy that can play some interior, play some edge. And he's doing a little bit of everything. He's pushing the pocket as a pass rusher. He's definitely contributing as a run defender. So this has been a nice find for the veteran that's really bounced around the league. You go back to 2015 when the Raiders were really good. Mario Edwards was kind of regarded as a future pivot point for that defense, and he's just kind of bounced around the league since then. He is a bit of a tweener, so it's tough to find a true role for him, but it's been a nice find for the Bears. They do such a good job with these defensive linemen, and Mario Edwards has been no different. Robert Quinn, on the other hand, really struggling this year. Got off to a decent start, but he gets that massive contract, and just has not shown up for about 2 months here. He'll get a pressure here, a pressure there, but man, he is just not consistent at all. And he falls into these traditional speed rushers. He might be one of the best speed rushers in the league, but there's a problem with relying on speed. And it's, to me, the biggest reason Robert Quinn has had this crazy inconsistency throughout his career, and he's bounced around. This is now his 4th team. When you don't have an uber refined tool belt as a pass rusher. He's got some pass rush moves, don't get me wrong. It's why he's better than the Vic Beasleys of the world. But when you aren't Von Miller, when you aren't what Brian Burns has, and you have 4 or 5 different go-to moves that you're really good at, that you can really keep offensive linemen on your heels, and you don't have an element of power to just mix it up and put your hand underneath the guy's chin and just drive him backwards, you're left with Robert Quinn. You're left with Vic Beasley. And it's going to be really difficult to be consistent on a week-to-week basis. So we're seeing a really bad version of Robert Quinn this year. Maybe next year he comes back and has a good year, but it's just really difficult to predict what you're going to get. It's very matchup dependent as well. When he goes up against a guy like David Bakhtiari, who's a phenomenal footwork type of tackle, he's just not going to be able to run past him. So that's the Robert Quinn breakdown. And then Danny Trevathan as well. He's going to drop down 1. Just the the injuries piling up here and the age. He's just showing some flaws in coverage that he really hasn't over the course of his career. He's always been a guy that can really break on balls in those zone coverages, and I'm sure he still has those instincts, but I think he's just maybe lost about a half a step here, and it's starting to hurt a guy that already was not a great athlete. So Danny Trevathan going to come down for his coverage woes this season. And next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we talked about Tom Brady, but there has been some good here. Tristan Wirfs, actually, to me, probably... You take Joe Burrow out of the conversation because he's going to miss the back half of the season. You got Justin Jefferson who's killing it, and then Tristan Wirfs, probably the third best pound-for-pound rookie in the league, and that's a lot of pounds to account here with 325-pound Tristan Wirfs. But he has just been rock solid from the get-go. The fourth tackle taken in a historically good tackle class. It's not an insult to the other guys. I think everyone in this class is going to be good, but Tristan Wirfs, I don't even know who you compare him to right now because he's such a freak athlete. He was kind of the Saquon Barkley athletes of offensive linemen over the last 10 years, and it's showing. I mean, he's run blocking well. He's been so steady and refined as a pass protector, something he didn't even show at Iowa. I think he's developed, especially an anchor, that he didn't utilize all that well at Iowa. So really impressed by Tristan Wirfs. This man could be on pace for a Hall of Fame career. Like, he looks that good as a rookie. And they got Ronald Jones. He's going to come up. He shows that explosiveness. He breaks off some big runs. He's got some warts as a player. I don't love his vision. It's fine. But he drops a pass like every 4 weeks. Like, he just is kind of a flawed player. He's not very fluid. I wouldn't say he's a reliable running back. I think that makes sense. But extremely explosive and a guy that can offer some of that big playability in the run game. A player that is not doing that is Leonard Fournette. Ugh, man, it is difficult to watch Leonard Fournette run into brick walls all day for this Bucs offense because he is yet another problem for this offense is they seem to think Leonard Fournette is like prime Adrian Peterson here with the way they give him the football. They keep checking the ball down to him and expecting that he's just going to magically all of a sudden make guys miss for the first time in his career. He's not going to do that. He's not shifty. He's not good in short areas. He's starting to show really tragic vision as a runner as well, just like not hitting holes. It's just been really ugly for Leonard Fournette, who continues to descend here. Then we have Jordan Whitehead. He's going to come up. He's been a nice piece in coverage for that Bucs secondary, that strong safety position. He's played some free safety as well, but that's a spot that was probably a weakness on this defense coming in. So good to see him round out a really nice, well-balanced defense. And then Ross Cockrell has been getting on the field here. For whatever reason, they have those three corners there, and they've been pretty healthy. I know there's been some rotations going on here, but this is a nice pickup. This guy's played some good football in his career, but just sitting there on the free agent block, and the Bucs were like, hey, we could use a fourth corner here, and he's coming in the rotation and served to be a capable dime corner. And then Jason Pierre-Paul having a late career resurgence here. He's playing extremely fast. He's very comfortable in this scheme. They do a good job dropping him into coverage. He's been getting interceptions and just really making an impact all across the board. Run defense, pass rush coverage, being a headache for offensive coordinators having to deal with this aggressive Todd Bowles defense. Then the Arizona Cardinals, just some low-level roster movement here. Just not many takeaways for whatever reason over the last couple weeks, but Evan Bayless getting in there as a rotational blocking tight end, and Chris Banjo rotating as a strong safety there, being a decent veteran presence in the secondary. So that's really it for Arizona. Very brief. No one really catching my eye there, so sorry, Cardinals fans. Kind of a disappointing week there, but it is what it is. Then we have the Dallas Cowboys. So despite... a disappointing week on Thanksgiving, they did beat the Vikings a week before. And the offensive line was really nice in that game. Connor McGovern, Connor Williams. If you want a consolation prize for the season, Dallas, is that Connor Williams has really stepped it up at guard. He's put on weight. He's playing more physical. Keep in mind, this was a 290-pound tackle coming out of Texas. They didn't need a tackle. They needed a guard. And he struggled early on, especially in run blocking. And He's developed as a run blocker, getting more push in that part of the game, but he's also increased his anchor, having to move in and play that guard position. Really impressed with the development of Connor Williams, who I liked that pick. It just took a lot of time to come along because he was a really nice athlete with really nice pass protection production at Texas. So if you want a consolation prize, it's the next year you're going to get Tyrone Williams back, or Tyron It's not Williams. It's Tyron Smith back. You're going to get Williams at left guard, who looks like a really good guard. Center's going to be a question mark with Frederick retiring, but Zach Martin at right guard and Lyle Collins, who's missed the season. In theory, Dallas should be back if they can get a center there, or maybe one of these guys develops there. You, in theory, should be back to having an elite offensive line next year, with Connor Williams kind of showing that is not a weak spot. So you like what you're seeing there. Connor McGovern is a guy that maybe could play some center in the future. He's stepped up with Zach Martin now done, I believe, for the season. So McGovern's going to get plenty of opportunities to prove out there as well. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Randy Gregory emerging. So first it was Aldon Smith. He's cooled off a little bit, but Randy Gregory gets that suspension lifted, and he looks really good. Keep in mind, my comparison for Brian Burns was Randy Gregory coming out of college. Now, Burns has really elevated his game. He's shown a work ethic that Randy Gregory never had, but physically speaking, Gregory has that same get off and burst and bend. He's a rare player. If he can stay off the weed and stay on the field, he could be a super nice second piece next to Lawrence. That's a big if, but you got to be somewhat encouraged by what you're seeing from Randy Gregory. Now, he's a little bit more up there in age, but man, Dallas just can't seem to put these things together, because they've had some flashes of like excitement with this roster, but it just doesn't all seem to happen in the same week. Then Donovan Wilson is going to climb up. We'll see what they have there. He's been playing starting at safety, really. He's been a secure player. He's a 7th-round pick. He's not a phenomenal athlete. He's a 7th-round pick for a reason, but he's been playing well there. So we'll see how his career goes. And then staying in the NFC East, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. No surprise here, Carson Wentz continues to fall down. It's difficult to know what to do with Carson Wentz, because we've seen him play at such a high level. Difficult to rank him with the Sam Darnolds of the world. But in all reality, he's playing at that low of a level. So difficult to kind of break down what kind of quarterback he will be moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if he bounces back at some point this season. I wouldn't be surprised if he bounces back at some point in the future, but I'm done betting on that. He continues to drop and play at a rapidly low level this season. Having Alshon Jeffrey out there, who would probably be one of the slowest starting tight ends in the league as the Eagles' #1 receiver, certainly doesn't help. This guy's not creating an ounce of separation. Some of these all-22 clips that they're showing on the broadcast of him trying to get away from, whether it's a slot corner, an outside corner, it doesn't matter. He just has no foot speed at all. He can't get off press. It's been really ugly. He's not elevating for the football like he used to. He looks like he should be cut yesterday. That's really what we're seeing from Alshon Jeffrey. So he's going to go down 4. Definitely a dud of the week candidate there. And then Jason Kelce definitely showing his age as well. This is a guy that was, his prime, arguably the best center in football. Was a huge piece of that Super Bowl team, and definitely not helped by the fact that the pieces around him aren't as good as they used to be. So he could maybe come back next year stronger. But as he is today, Jason Kelce's struggling in pass protection. He's a very light guy. He always has been. So it kind of makes sense. If he's not getting help from Brandon Brooks to his right, he did get Sayamalu back the last couple weeks, but if he's not getting some of that help on these double teams around him, then that lack of size and strength, he's 295 pounds, 6'3". Some of these guys are going to get up and underneath him and really drive him back, and that's starting to show. But he's not run blocking at the elite level that he always has either. Then we have Richard Rodgers, just continues to be this team's best offensive player somehow. How did that? That is the Eagles season in a nutshell, that Richard Rodgers, who's been nothing in this league for 6-7 years, who's been just a slow tight end who doesn't block with a, secure pair of hands. That's what he's been for Philadelphia. He has improved his blocking, a little bit. Now with Ertz coming back this week, Goddard healthy, he's going to get buried here, but Rodgers is having a nice season. Could be a decent second tight end for someone in free agency. I don't know. Jordan Mailata at left tackle has been a bright spot for this offensive line, a true project, Australian, I believe, rugby player, who they take in the 7th round, who probably, I would assume, has never played a snap of football. I need to do some more research on his backstory, but regardless, obviously a raw prospect, but he has stepped in at left tackle with Dillard out and some of these other guys, and he's played very valiantly. I think there might be something there in Jordan Mailata with the physical traits, clearly a good worker. He has been a very serviceable left tackle. He's been kind of mauling guys in the run game as well, so intrigued by what we've got in Jordan Mailata. And then Boston Scott continues to be a consistent contributor for this team. Good third down back. He's shown some explosiveness as a runner, so he's going to go up. And then just one player on the defensive side of the ball, it's going to be Alex Singleton, continuing his climb as a sort of under-the-radar, just do-it-all linebacker, really. He's been in the right place at the right time in coverage. He's shown some decent route recognition, but he comes up and really thumps you and is a tough middle linebacker type of guy. So he's showing like he might be a low-end starter for this team. He's been really steady at a position that they absolutely needed someone, a pleasant surprise for that Eagles defense. Then the Atlanta Falcons, just 3 players here. It's all on the defensive side of the ball. We've talked about the job that Raheem Morris is doing over there. And you got to credit the front office for finding Michael Walker. And if this is legit, he's been really good in this last couple weeks where this defense has stepped up. If he is legit, if this is a real thing for Michael Walker, you're very quickly talking about one of the top linebacker trios in the league with speed, with all these guys. Walker, while he's not huge, gives them a little bit more of that thumping guy that will take on blocks a little bit better than guys like Deion Jones and Foyesade Oluokun. But really impressed by what we've seen from Michael Walker. He's been a nice find. And another rookie, AJ Terrell, going up for the second week in a row. He has been a nice find for the Falcons. When they took him, it made sense to me. They needed a guy that could play day one as a starter. He fit the scheme fit as that cover 3 Seattle corner. But yeah, he's playing tough. He's tackling really well. He's had his ups and downs in coverage, as do all rookie corners. But I was actually a little higher on AJ Terrell. You might not have known it because I saw him as just a really high floor, maybe a little bit of a lower ceiling corner, but a guy that I thought could have a Xavier Rhodes-esque career with some of the similar physical traits, and he's showing that here early on. So I've been impressed by AJ Terrell. I don't think he'll ever be Stephon Gilmore or Jair Alexander. He just doesn't have those athletic traits, but he can be a disciplined, smart, physical corner for a long time in this league. So that is absolutely worth the, what did they take him with, the 16th pick or something like that. And then you have Jacob Tuioti Mariner really getting involved as a true edge rusher. This is a bit of one of those tweener, Michael Bennett-esque 4-3 defensive ends, just blowing up the right tackle this week, showing some power and get off. A guy that is not just a run defender there, coming out of UCLA. He has not gotten a ton of playing time, but he looks legit, at least as a interesting rotational piece. Maybe he could kick inside and push the pocket next to Grady Jarrett down the road if they get a real high upside edge to start there. But impressed by the traits that we've seen from Jacob Tuioti Mariner. Okay, buckle up. This one, you know, the Washington fans probably expecting a ton of movement this week, and you are going to get it. This has been one of the more pleasantly surprising teams over the last 2 weeks. You're talking about a team with a ton of kind of under-the-radar young players, new players, and really coming together as a team, which is going to always result in a ton of movement. So we have, 15 players rising, all of them this week. So every single one of these starting offensive linemen right now are going up. So you have Wes Schweitzer, who's actually intriguing. I honestly thought he would have been like 33 years old. I feel like he's been in Atlanta forever, and he's been like a swingman guard forever. He's only like 25 years old. They may have really found a starting caliber left guard with how he's playing. I was just caught off guard there. I really thought Wes Schweitzer had been in the league forever for whatever reason, and he hasn't. So he's younger than you would think. They may have found a left guard there, which is huge. Then you got Brandon Sheriff playing his best football in years, finally surrounded with some talent. Goes to show you that that's a real thing. I mean, we know Sheriff can play. He has not been playing at that high level, has not been grading out as well. All of a sudden, these pieces start to click, and there you go. There's Brandon Sheriff again. You got Morgan Moses. He's having one of his best careers since about the Kirk Cousins days, and he's been impressive because he actually kicked over to left tackle this week and played really well. He's been run blocking better than he ever has, utilizing that strength that he has, close to 340 pounds, but he's been an anchor in pass protection as well. You get David Sharp, who probably isn't anything here, but he could be a swingman tackle with a lot of size, a good backup to Morgan Moses, very similar physical traits, and maybe over time he learns how to be the next Morgan Moses. But he's been impressive. And then you got Chase Roullier, who, again, I thought he was like 34 years old. He's not. He's only 27. So get Brandon Scherf back here, Washington. You're going to have to figure out the left tackle position for sure. But overall, like, this offensive line is quickly becoming a very serviceable unit. And then you have Terry McLaurin here who's going up. You have Antonio Gibson. They need to establish some other weapons. They've got some other guys playing decently. But another receiver opposite of Terry McLaurin would go a long way. I think you could get like Allen Robinson or Juju in here in free agency. All of a sudden, that becomes a really attractive position for a quarterback, whether it's a rookie or Alex Smith or a different free agent, like whatever. Alex Smith is making the most of it, though. He's looking like... I would probably compare him to Case Keenum with the Vikings back in 2017. Like, pretty good with the football, puts the ball in the right place, but just lacks those physical traits. Alex Smith is not the future quarterback for anybody, Washington or any other team included, but he definitely is a quarterback that can run the ship. Put him here in like Washington, maybe like Chicago, New England, maybe. Like, he could be a low-end starting caliber quarterback. He's still one of the smartest QBs in the league, and a great story. I never thought that we would see him even play at this level, even if it's not that exciting. Well, it is exciting, but the actual tape is not that exciting. But yeah, Alex Smith looks great. And then Antonio, I say all that and say great. He looks good. He looks fine. But Antonio Gibson, he's going to go up +3. Thought about him for the star of the week. Just so explosive. You just take that raw athleticism, a guy that played a little bit of everything at Memphis, receiver, running back, but you package it into his starting running back in the NFL. You give him the ball, you block things up, and just let that just explosiveness flourish. And you're seeing it. You're seeing that confidence develop. He's seeing lanes develop much better. He's making guys miss. He's running through arm tackles, really quickly developing on the fly how to be a legitimate full-time running back. Kind of makes you wonder what Antonio Gibson would have been perceived as if he was used as a full-time running back at Memphis, but even beyond that, like on a real, if he was like Alabama's starting running back, like would he have been a top 10 pick, because he really is, man, I don't want to say he's like Saquon Barkley as an athlete, but he's close to 230 pounds. The explosiveness shows. He probably doesn't have the shiftiness and short area quickness that Saquon had, but I mean, Zeke, Leonard Fournette, like he is that kind of athlete of guys that were top 10 picks at the position. He just has that burst and it shows. And there's a lot of upside there with Antonio Gibson to be one of these legitimately game-changing running backs, especially if things keep growing here. So really impressed with what we've seen from Gibson. Great pick by Washington to have a plan for him and put it all together. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Tim Settle, my dude, this guy is like weirdly becoming one of my favorite players in the league. I'm biased because I really liked him coming out. I thought they got a total steal in Tim Settle, and I want to see him succeed because he's buried here between Jonathan Allen. You got the other Bama D tackle there, that his name's escaping me. You got Matt Ioannidis. Like, he is scrapping for reps out here, and he's making the absolute most of them. He's one of the highest graded run defenders in all of football by PFF, but he is even getting after the quarterback, getting sacks out here. Now, they're not like amazing sacks. I went back and watched them. One of them, he legitimately beat the left guard. Now, that left guard was Michael Jordan of the Cincinnati Bengals, might be the worst starting guard in football right now. And the other one was kind of a cleanup sack, but he is getting pressures, and he is actually showing some push as a pass rusher. Tim Settle, let's start the hashtag free Tim Settle. Whether it's here in Washington, probably not. The guys ahead of him are really good football players too. But, someone go trade for him. Tim Settle, to me, could be a, dare I say, Vince Wilfork-esque nose tackle in this league. I get really excited because coming out, he had the size, the strength, but he had these rare, quick feet for a defensive tackle that really reminded me of Vince Wilfork, who, if you remember, had the same build of like really tiny ankles, but was legitimately strong as far as his play strength. So if you can't hear my voice, I get excited about Tim Settle. I don't know if I would ever buy a jersey or something. I'm pretty cursed on that end. As far as guys getting hurt after I buy jerseys. But Tim Settle, dude, what a season for him. Now I think he's got to come back here one more year with Washington. Then we have Jonathan Allen, who is looking like that top 10 prospect that he was, having his best season down the stretch here. And you're starting to see it now. You see Chase Young getting healthy. You have Jonathan Allen really benefiting from not getting doubled all the time. Montez Sweat was hit or miss the last couple weeks. That's why he's not going up. But this defensive line, it was really hyped up coming into the year. The first half of the season, it just didn't all come together. But you're starting to see it here, and Washington's starting to make some noise and have some legitimate talent here. And then Ronald Darby is having a great season. What a find for Washington. The talent's always been there for Darby, but he's had a hard time finding a scheme fit that's really working for him. And he's well protected. They're not asking him to be this team's number one corner or play behind a bad pass rush. Like, he is very comfortable here. He's tackling better than he ever has, which is really nice for him to kind of see the game slow down a little bit. A lot of upside there with Ronald Darby. Another guy you could be really excited about. This whole team is like a Kickstarter project, and it's really working here. Ron Rivera doing such a good job reestablishing some floor for this team. Cole Holcomb, really fun middle linebacker, coach's son, a little bit of a do-it-all guy, can play some middle, play some weak side, just a smart player. He covers well, he tackles well. I like what they have in him. He, to me, is a starting caliber linebacker. Not sure what the upside is there long-term, but definitely a good player. James Smith-Williams, 7th-round pick here, contributing as an early down run defender. Just yet another guy on this defense stepping up. Cameron Curl, same thing. Was he like a 4th, 5th-round pick? We'll see what he has long-term. He doesn't have, let's just say, elite range. He was not regarded as an elite athlete, but he is playing good football right now. He's tackling well. He's kind of playing a little bit of everything, some strong safety, some free safety. And then Jeremy Reeves, again, probably nothing here, but steps in at free safety and had a great game. I believe that was the Bengals game. He played a lot at free safety and was kind of all over the field. So Jeremy Reeves on the board for the Washington football team. All right, we got through that one. Only 2 players moving now for the San Francisco 49ers. Both going to be on the defensive side of the ball, but I will make a note on Deebo Samuel because he was phenomenal against the Rams. But the thing is, Deebo didn't do anything that we didn't know he couldn't do. It was, again, like, it goes to show, like, I didn't love Deebo coming out. I didn't love Ayuk coming out. But I recognized that they were unbelievable with the ball in their hands. And you put them with Kyle Shanahan, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's going to work. I tweeted this out, Deebo Samuel's kind of shot chart as a receiver. He does not have a single target of 20-plus yards this year. He is the definition of and I like Deebo. I really like Deebo, but he is not a traditional receiver. He is totally schemed up by Kyle Shanahan on crossing routes, pop pass, jet sweeps, handoffs. Like, they just create ways to get the ball to Deebo Samuel in space. They don't have to worry about him, shaking a guy in man coverage. He can do a little bit of that stuff, and he can grow on that over time, but pretty revealing to see that he really is just getting schemed up here, but he capitalizes. But again, if you want to talk about his Madden rating, what am I supposed to add to him? I'm not going to add route running. He's already got decent hands. You know what I mean? Like, I can't make his ball carrying any better. It's kind of like Lamar Jackson as a runner last year. But anyway, Deebo had a great week. I will acknowledge it. Just the Madden rating is not changing here because he was Deebo. Sometimes guys just play like they are supposed to play. Then you got Jimmy Ward is going to come up. He had a rough start to the year as this defense was figuring everything out. He's got his buddy Richard Sherman underneath him. That's just so big for these free safeties because you can trust that and you can really play off of that, whether it's jumping routes or kind of leaving him on an island, shading towards the other side. It's a big deal to have Richard Sherman, who was phenomenal in this game, by the way, against the Rams. So Jimmy Ward's going to come up +2 again. He looks like that safety that got paid a ton of money here in San Francisco again. And then Kerry Hyder, one of the best stories of the year. A lot of us remember when he was in Detroit, he historically got he got over the 8.5 sack limit for his undrafted contract that gave him $800,000. I think it was against the Jags, week 17 or something. So he had this kind of random breakout season as this weird tweener defensive end kind of guy, and then just disappeared for years. Bounced around different teams, probably practice squads, low-level depth charts, and I was just kind of okay, yeah, he had a flash-in-the-pan season. He'll probably fade out, be out of the league in a couple years, and he'll be that guy that when you see a tweet that's name a random football player, you say, Kerry Hyder. Nope, he is back, and he has found a scheme fit that is so perfect for him. and he's back to having like close to a double-digit sack season. But even this year, I think it's more legit than some of the cleanup sacks he had in Detroit. He is really having to work for it, and he's playing really good run defense as well. Now, he doesn't have the traits to be some elite starting caliber guy, but in this scheme, this is the typical Michael Bennett role. We talk about this so often, but it's one of the most consistent scheme fits that you see around the league. There's so many of these Seattle 3 teams. They all want a Kerry Hyder who will play good, disciplined, tough run defense as the edge player on early downs, which Kerry Hyder is doing. He has the size to do it. He's like 6'2", almost 280 pounds, but he can kick inside a little bit, whether it's an inside shade of the tackle, up over the guard, and he can create some push. He's got some quick feet. He's a very unique player. He is exactly what they wish they had in Solomon Thomas, ironically. So good for Kerry Hyder, man. He is making a total name for himself. I think he's actually going to get paid this time around. Probably not here for San Francisco, but look at like a Seattle, or we'll see what schemes like Atlanta and Jacksonville and the Chargers are running in the future. But teams like that need that Michael Bennett role for that Seattle 3 defense, looking at Kerry Hyder. I would love to see a guy like that get paid because the work ethic is clearly there. And he's doing the most he can with what he's got, which is really respectable. Then we have the New York Giants. Just Darnay Holmes here. They were on bye, I believe, week 11. And then they played the Bengals. So just very little to take away here with the Giants. Daniel Jones played good against the Bengals, but got injured in the second half, so not enough to continue his climb. But Darnay Holmes did stand out. He has been starting in the slot there. It has allowed them to kick Logan Ryan up to free safety, where he's been playing well there. I loved Darnay Holmes in this class. I raved about this pick. Just a guy that is very young and needs to develop, especially in coverage at the next level. But you're seeing early on some of those instincts and run defense instincts to really fly to the ball and tackle well. So Darnay Holmes kind of getting his career started here as a slot corner for the Giants. I think he's got a lot of upside at that position in like a Chris Harris kind of way, but he's got a lot of work to do. Then the Detroit Lions, again, really rough couple of weeks, but we'll see how they kind of respond with Patricia gone. Clearly that team had just lost all of their luster, any luster that they had. But a couple guys actually climbing here in the blocking game. So you got Hal Vaitai has actually been playing pretty well at guard. Now, he did get injured last week. I don't know if that's a season ender or what, but we'll put a little bit of respect on Hal Vaitai, who we've been pretty rough on. But he has been respectable at guard, and that's not a huge surprise to me. I hated him at tackle, super cloggy footwork, really poor technique, but you can get away with that more at guard and rely on your anchor a little more, get a little more help in pass protection, and we're seeing that with Hal Vaitai. Now, he's still way overpaid, but I think you could probably do a lot worse than Vaitai as your starting right guard. Now, you could look back and say, why the hell did you pay him the same money that what's-his-name got in Denver to play guard when you wanted Vaitai to be a tackle? Just terrible management by Bob Quinn, who has now been fired, but Detroit might be able to make the most out of this mess of a contract if Vaitai can play like this at guard. If he can become your weakest link, you could probably get by. Then you have Isaac Nata. He's a guy I liked coming out of Georgia as a 6th-round pick, just a physical, tough run defender, run blocker, understands his role, and that's what he's going to be here in Detroit, but good to see it show at the next level. And then just a note on Amani Oruwariye, who had an excellent game back on, would that have been Thanksgiving or the week before? I'm all turned around now. Whenever they played the Panthers, that was not Thanksgiving. He had a great game against the Panthers, but then was just having a really hard time keeping up with the speed of the Houston Texans receivers, which Oruwariye doesn't have the best long speed. So an up and down week for Oruwariye, no change there. Still a player I like, and I think he could finish strong here and get a couple ratings boosts with a new coach down the stretch. Then the Green Bay Packers, Equanimeous St. Brown, he's kind of alive again. He's really had a rough start to his career as a really raw, athletic freak coming out of Notre Dame. I don't know if it's because he's got his brother playing well and coming up out of USC, and he doesn't want to be the worst of the St. Browns or what, but he has finally started to show something for Green Bay. I will say he's probably the reason they signed Tavon Austin. They ran a designed jet sweep for him. It was blocked up really well, and some of the worst vision you'll ever see. He could have cut it outside and gotten the edge, or he could have cut up inside and taken advantage of the blocking that was in place. Instead, he runs between the two blockers on the edge and turns what could have been a 20-yard gain into just a 7-yard gain. I think he's the reason they signed Tavon Austin. They're like, all right, St. Brown's doing some decent things. He's holding on to the ball as a receiver. We might be able to get him involved in the passing game, but he's not the most nimble of athletes. Let's put it that way. The most instinctive guy with the ball in his hands either. But Robert Tonyan continues to be an impact in the receiving game, like what they have there in Green Bay. They kind of refer to him as Baby Kittle. He's not half the player George Kittle is, but he's everything they got at that tight end position. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you got Tyler Lancaster. He is stepping up at run defense. He kind of broke out a couple years ago, but has been quiet since, and he's getting a little bit back to how he was as an undrafted rookie, playing some of that tough December football in Lambeau, which is good to see someone play physical on this defense. Rashawn Gary is, I think, taking a big step up as a pass rusher. It just shows he has now taken Preston Smith's starting job in the nickel packages. He has a go-to bull rushing power move, and he is really coming into his body. He's had to really transition his weight and relearn how to play as an edge outside linebacker. Didn't understand that from the get-go, but he has those elite athletic traits, and I think he's finally comfortable here. He's starting, and we're going to see Gary come along. We'll see how much he can refine his game and what his true upside can be, but he has been a nice impact for this pass rush over the last couple weeks. Preston Smith, on the other hand, not so much. Yeah, he picked up a fumble and ran it to the end zone for a touchdown and, walked into a sack on accident, but he's been really rough this year. Someone pointed out that last year he really benefited from jumping snap counts, and that's just another example of the COVID season hurting a lot of these pass rushers. Maybe he gets back to it next year once they have teams having to go to hard counts again. But yeah, he doesn't. He's not a great athlete. He's not Rashawn Gary. He doesn't have speed and power to lean on. He doesn't have bend like a Brian Burns to lean on. He doesn't have get off to lean on. He doesn't have any of that. He is a stand-up, lengthy, awkward pass rusher, but he's a smart player. He's a crafty guy. But how far can that really get you on a consistent basis after a career year last year? Well, he's much back to that sort of third rusher role that he was for Washington. I would not be the least bit surprised if he gets released here from Green Bay, because the way he's playing right now is much more like his career. This version of Preston Smith last year is looking more and more like an outlier, and I don't think you trade for this contract right now. Maybe you do, but I think Green Bay probably going to look to clear up that cap space next year with Gary coming along, which was kind of the plan, I feel like. Then you got Kamal Martin. He is still getting limited reps. He has not really been able to stay healthy this year, so they're kind of easing him back in. But when he's out there, he pops. He looks like the best linebacker they've had since probably Desmond Bishop with the Super Bowl team. So that's good for them. They found a linebacker that can play. Time to actually play him. He has been all over the field when he does play. Then Darnell Savage, two really nice looking interceptions. Granted, against Mitchell Trubisky, you want to see him show those instincts against quarterbacks that are actually playing with his eyes and trying to manipulate him. But shows that range. He had a really nice pass breakup against the Colts. Shows that he was a first round pick because he seriously has one of the fastest first steps you'll ever see from a defensive back. It's just a matter of leveraging that with instincts and consistency that he just hasn't done to this point. But you started to see some of those flashes these last couple of weeks. Let's see it over the course of the season for a player that I really liked coming out in 2019. Then the Carolina Panthers, lots of movement here. So PJ Walker gets the start a couple weeks ago, showed some of those athletic traits. I like the upside there with PJ Walker. I was kind of hoping we'd see another week of him because I don't think he'll ever be as good as Teddy Bridgewater, but there's a chance that he could be better because he has the arm talent. He has the true high-end mobility. Interesting player. Showed some flashes, made some mistakes, but they might have a little something there in PJ Walker. I'm still intrigued. Then Chris Reed is stepping up, the veteran at left guard. Not sure there's much there. But then Taylor Moton, get this man locked up, Carolina. You can't lose this guy. You can't let him hit the market because he's going to get $21, $22, $23 million a year if he becomes an open free agent. Now, they'll probably franchise tag him, but this guy's a premier right tackle, and they gotta get him taken care of. He's playing excellent football, trying to get paid in that contract year. Then DJ Moore, he's going to go up 182 to an 83. He has stabilized the drop issues. Good on him to kind of put his head down, get back to work, and say, you know what, I want to be a premier receiver in this league, but I can't do it dropping a pass every week. And that has shown. The production has come his way because of it. So DJ Moore reascending here, a player I really like. And then Curtis Samuel has been a pleasant surprise as far as his growth over the last few years. It was a rough start to his career, just incredibly raw, coming out as a flex player at Ohio State. Used as a running back, designed touches on screens, but virtually no route running, didn't have to show the ability or develop the ability to come down with tough catches. That obviously has come his way over the years in the NFL. And he's in a contract year himself, and I've been very surprised by the development of Curtis Samuel. I really thought he was just a Tavon Austin, a true gimmick player, but he's running routes. He's had secure, consistent hands, and he's made some tough catches as well. So I'm really impressed with Curtis Samuel. The Panthers have some tough cap decisions to make with Moton and Samuel. These are key pieces to this offense. I think they would love to keep them both if they can. But it's just a matter of kind of weighing the pros and cons of giving these guys both contracts. I think Curtis Samuel has played himself into 11, 12, maybe even $13 million, considering his athletic traits and how he's developed. So that's probably not what Panthers fans want to hear, but I think Samuel recognizes that is his value right now. But then we got Chris Manhertz. He has emerged as probably the best tight end here. Ian Thomas going to come down. Manhertz has been blocking. They just don't use the tight ends very much, probably because these guys aren't very good receivers. But yeah, Manhertz blocking well. Ian Thomas just kind of like not doing anything this year. Gets a lot of playing time, but just doesn't catch the ball. He doesn't block well. Kind of getting phased out here, I think. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Zach Kerr. He's definitely a Dave Gettleman award winner type of candidate for, the reason why you might not want to pay a Grover Stewart or draft a Dexter Lawrence in the first round. It's a position that you can find guys, and that's Zach Kerr, who's actually contributing as a pass rusher recently as well. He's a really nice player. Arizona let him go. That they probably regret that. He had a breakout year for Arizona, and good eye by this Carolina team to say, hey, we got some D tackles, but we can get Zach Kerr for almost nothing. Let's do it. This guy can really play. And then, you have Short go down, and bam, Zach Kerr is a full-time starting nose tackle here. So he's a great find for them. Brian Burns, we keep talking him up. He continues to impress. This guy is on a hot track to being in the same convo with, Von Miller's an easy one to bring up because their play style is very similar with that get off and well-versed tool belt as speed rushers. But just as far as the caliber, you're talking about Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, like he is on track to very quickly being in that conversation if he isn't already. Probably just a smidgen short of those guys at the moment, though. Then you got Jermaine Carter. He's playing well at linebacker, I suppose, veteran, weak side linebacker type, but he's actually thumping. He's playing some middle linebacker right now. Then you got Corn Elder. He looks just like the player he was at Miami, a guy that lacks some of those, athletic traits to be a good cover player. Maybe a low-end starting slot corner here, but really physical guy. He's just that chip on his shoulder type of player who's going to fly to the ball and play scrappy, and a great fit here on a team that is very much like that, a young, doubted defense like this. Corn Elder finally kind of getting his crack at slot corner. He might even be on a little crack with the way he's playing. But Corn Elder going up again. He's been a nice piece for them. And then these outside corners, they've dealt with some injuries there. We have not seen much of, I always want to say Adoree Jackson, but was it Dante Jackson, the other corner there? We have not seen much of him this year at all, if any, but Stanley Thomas Oliver looks like he can play. 7th-round pick with some length. They're getting him going on the outside. He's looked serviceable, nothing crazy, but you like to see that from a young corner. And then Rasul Douglas, this is a great veteran pickup. Neither of these guys are burners. You don't want them getting matched up with these true speed threats out here, but you play them either up in their face and get a good pass rush, or you drop them back where they don't need to play catch up, and they're going to show some of that length and discipline and IQ at that corner position. So they're using these guys really well. Jeremy Chin, we talked about him, and then Troy Pride, very much the opposite of Rasul Douglas and Stanley Thomas Oliver. This dude's a freak. I liked Troy Pride. I had a third-round grade on him, maybe even a late second. This is the kind of athlete you want to gamble on at that corner position. Super great athlete, really quick feet, and he's getting out there. He struggled early on. They are asking him to play. I think he's playing a little bit of everything right now. Obviously, a lot of corners getting in the mix here. But with Jackson out, he has given them a speedy option at corner, and it's showing out there. So he's definitely got to keep an eye on as a high upside corner. Great name, Troy Pride. Great school, Notre Dame. Great athletic traits. Just there's something about this guy. He was a really nice player at Notre Dame. Showed a lot of flashes. Then we got the LA Rams. So David Edwards is going to go up, the left guard. He is really settling in there. That was a big question mark heading into the year. Edwards was a tackle at Wisconsin. So he knows how to run block, but he's developing as a pass protector on the inside as well. So they're very happy to have him, especially without Whitworth now. They need these offensive linemen to keep playing well down the stretch as they make a playoff push. But then for the defense, Sebastian Joseph Day, the young defensive tackle run defender, another Dave Gettleman candidate here, just playing really good run defense. Obviously benefits from being next to Aaron Donald there, but he's been a really nice find. He's stepped up. Keep in mind, they paid a couple defensive tackles, Brockers and Ashawn Robinson. Well, Sebastian Joseph Day has given them everything they needed there. Another example of why you don't pay players at that position, because you might just find Sebastian Joseph Day, or they have another guy on roster that his name's escaping me, but this just proves time and time again. I'm defending this because I question the Grover Stewart extension for the Colts. But anyway, Sebastian Joseph Day is playing great. And then Troy Reeder gets a start this week at linebacker and showed some coverage ability there. A 7th-round pick out of Delaware, maybe an undrafted pickup out of Delaware. They need someone to play consistently at linebacker. Maybe it'll be Troy Reeder. Probably not, though. Then John Johnson, contract year here. He hit a bit of a slump. He was definitely a down year last year, had to do a little bit too much for a defense that was really in flux as far as the continuity there. They've changed coordinators, a lot of moving pieces, and he's a guy that just kind of moves around all over the middle of the defense, and I think he's just comfortable now. The secondary has stabilized, and he's tackling better, he's covering better, he is showing up more. And another good contract year player right here, John Johnson. I don't think the Rams will be able to afford him, but think like Adrian Amos, just really secure, high floor safety in the traditional sense of the world, like going to limit big plays, tackle well, keep everything in front of him. Perfect player for this defense, but that's because he's not getting paid. The second you pay him, you're asking a guy that's just kind of a role player in a lot of ways to play like a star. So we'll see where he ends up and if that's worth it. His market's going to be about $8-9 million, I think. But good to see him playing like that good of a player for a Rams defense that needs cheap players to step up like that. And then one other guy here I want to talk about is Jordan Fuller for the Rams. Rams fans are going to be like, what the hell? How does he not go up? He had 3 picks. Well, I'll try to link the tweet in the description below. I cut it up. He had 3 picks. Yes. None of them he did anything. I'm sorry. He actually grades out really poor in coverage per PFF the last few weeks. I still like Jordan Fuller, but he doesn't have range. He was a 6th-round pick for a reason. I mean, look, these interceptions look great on the box score, but he literally did nothing. We have boosted him over the last couple weeks. He's been a nice find for them as a 6th-round safety, but, this isn't Earl Thomas we're talking about here with Jordan Fuller just because he's had some picks land in his lap. Maybe that becomes him, and he just becomes an elite rangy free safety. But as we sit here today, that is not consistent with his college eval and not consistent with his tape. So Jordan Fuller, I just wanted to talk about him. Rams fans will be pretty upset about that, but I have film to back up what I'm saying. Then the New Orleans Saints, who have had an interesting couple of weeks with the Taysom Hill project in there. Adam Troutman. I am so mad at myself. I had Adam Troutman as the number one tight end for multiple months. I was so impressed with what he did at Dayton and just looked like a Gronkowski type of tight end. Just not quite the physical traits, but just a beast as a run blocker. And at least I had him as the best blocking tight end in this class, which he's totally shown. But secure hands, tough after the catch, and a bit of a mismatch problem. But that's probably what I like the most, is he was running away from guys at Dayton. He didn't necessarily do that at the Senior Bowl. He didn't necessarily test like that, running in the 4.8. So I backed off a little bit. I still liked him as one of the best tight ends in this class, but I'm really mad at myself that I didn't hold true to that, because there was really nothing on tape that said that Adam Troutman wasn't by far the best rookie tight end in this class, because he kicked ass in college. It was just the small school thing, the fact that he didn't test well, I guess a learning experience there, because Adam Troutman is a total beast. What a find for the Saints. This guy's going to keep getting better, I think, now that he's getting that playing time when Drew Brees comes back. They found the replacement for Jared Cook, a player that, I say this all the time, but in theory, the Saints should have some cap problems at some point. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, because the cap just doesn't exist here, but you would think at some point they could say, okay, we need to clear up some cap space, and it doesn't even sound right saying that about the Saints. It applies to every team in the league except for the New Orleans Saints, apparently. But Adam Troutman, in theory, should be the replacement to Jared Cook here, and that looks great. Like, he is doing well when they call his name in the receiving game, but again, it's been Taysom Hill out here, so whatever. But he is blocking his ass off for this team. So really impressed by Adam Troutman. And then Garrett Griffin, he's blocking well as well, so he's going to go up. Taysom Hill, we're going to boost him. He did look comfortable. He looked confident. He made some throws, especially against Atlanta. I still think they should probably go to Jameis here and stop kidding themselves with Taysom Hill. I don't really see it as a high-level quarterback at 30 years old. But he's a good athlete. He's interesting. Looked a little bit comfortable back there despite having some flaws as a passer, as we all know he has. Then on the defensive side of the ball, this has been a huge story for the Saints, is how well this defense is playing. So they pick up Ryan Glasgow, a little hit or miss over the last couple weeks, but had a good game against Atlanta. But David Onyemata, he's having a career season. He's been a great pass rusher for this team. This pass rush really coming together. Onyemata's been a part of that. Always been a good run defender. That hasn't changed. Then Demario Davis, rough start to the season. Just did not look like he did last year and was coming down. But now he's back to it. He's kind of got that veteran late season mojo going right now. He looks great. So he's basically back to where he was before the season started, looking like what he was coming off of last year. And then Janoris Jenkins, such a great pickup for the Saints. I don't know why the league doesn't really value Janoris Jenkins. They were able to get him for free last year. They get him back for cheap. But this guy is clearly one of the best number 2 corners in the league. Just a tough guy with great technique. And he's got a good, Batman and Robin thing going here with this secondary. And they get Janoris Jenkins playing like this, and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who we'll talk about in a second. Like, this is such a great top 3 defense right now, which is ultimately how the Saints are going to win a Super Bowl, is if they can play defense like this. Then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I love this guy. I mean, I've lowered him over the last few weeks because he really had some rough weeks there, and I think Saints fans would acknowledge that as well. He was just not being a good slot corner. He was giving up way too much. But that said, I did have really kind of against everyone else. I had a first-round grade on CGJ, and when I was mocking him in the first round as a slot corner, keep in mind, everyone had this guy as a safety. I said, no, this guy's a slot corner. He's a freak. He's really instinctive. He's got that badass mentality as a tough slot corner. And if you are a team that really needs a slot corner, I was willing to take that in the first round because I think he can really be one of the best in the league. And he has looked like that over the last couple weeks. So I am a big Chauncey Gardner-Johnson fan, and I'm really stoked to see him, actually playing slot corner in every sense of the world, every sense of the word, and playing at a really high level. Because that makes me look good. So Chauncey going up, and then for Seattle, just one guy here, Damian Lewis. This guy is unapologetically himself one of the best, if not the best, run blockers in the league. and one of the worst pass protectors at guard. This guy is like really natural, flying off the ball, moving forward, but you get him back on his heels, and he just doesn't anchor well at all. He's got really stiff feet. I don't know if he's ever going to be able to really work on that stuff. It would probably take an off-season program to probably lighten up and improve his footwork and his technique. He could get there, but at least he is a premier run-blocking guard. He is a typical Seahawk offensive lineman with that true mauler mentality. Obviously, you want to see him improve that pass protection. It was not pretty against Philadelphia. It has not been pretty all season. But, I mean, this guy, I had him as, my number 2 guard in this class. There was a time I mocked him in the first round. It's because he does just fly off the ball. He looks different as a run blocker, and that is showing really all season. So Damian Lewis is going to go up, but it's just that run blocking. I'm still very worried about what he is as a pass protector if the Seahawks want to throw the ball a bunch. And then the Vikings, the last team here. So Kirk Cousins has been lights out for about a month here. He's been really good. You got to give Kirk Cousins credit. We know what he is. He's not an elite quarterback. He never is going to be an elite quarterback, most likely. I don't see anything changing there. But he's playing really well. He's playing some of his best football right now. He's helping the Vikings kind of lead this comeback effort on their season. Comeback effort in this game against Carolina last week was really impressive. So, he's doing some nice things too with his feet. Like, he's doing some play extension that he never has before. If he does that consistently, you could put him in sort of the, I don't want to say prime Ben Roethlisberger, but kind of in that range of guys that can do a little bit more, add some stuff to your team, maybe get himself out of the grasps of the Tannehills and Goffs of the world. You got to see it at a more consistent basis, probably at this point over more than, half a season, but I am impressed by what we're seeing from Kirk Cousins. Then you got Brett Jones. He, I think, is coming back from injury because they've put him in at right guard. That guard spot's been just in flux all season. And he looked really good last week at right guard, which is huge for this team. And it's huge for multiple reasons. A, it gives them a good option there for the season. But we've talked about Ezra Cleveland, who they've had to play at guard by necessity. I was worried that they were going to stick Ezra Cleveland, who to me is a light-footed guy, not a good anchor, not a good guard prospect, but a second-round pick out of Boise State that I love his upside as a developmental left tackle to eventually overtake Riley Reif's job. But they kicked him into guard. He was fine, but I was worried that they were going to stay stubborn to that and leave him there. Well, they take him out. They put Brett Jones in, and hopefully you get Cleveland back to being that developmental tackle. So we'll see how that all plays out. All these receivers going up here, other than Thielen, who was out with COVID, but did have a great week the week before, by the way. But we know Adam Thielen has some of the best hands in football, no surprise there. But Chad Beebe made some really nice plays against Carolina. Did fumble a punt, but that doesn't impact how he looked at it as a receiver. BC Johnson, he looks like he's beefed up from his days at Colorado State. He's been kind of, in a lot of ways, what Justin Jefferson was in college as that bigger-bodied slot option with kind of more steady hands over the middle. I think he caught all 7 of his targets this week. And then Justin Jefferson with BC, always good to see him step up as well with Thielen out with COVID. I think he's going to get another week to get that opportunity. But anyway, Justin Jefferson going to go up again. To me, the best rookie in the NFL. Herbert's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year because he's a quarterback, but Justin Jefferson's been a top 10 receiver in the league. Just a do-it-all receiver, great route runner. He is really impressed with his ability to beat press. That was probably, I loved Justin Jefferson. He was my wide receiver 4 and was definitely higher than a lot of people on him, but I did say that he did not see a lot of press coverage, and that was going to be the question mark. I did think he could transition and play outside receiver, but that was kind of the one, I guess, knock on his scouting report was we just don't know how he's going to do against press coverage at the next level. Well, we know now. He's, I think, number 1 in the league at beating press coverage per PFF. So he's just doing it all. He's a complete do-it-all number 1 receiver, period. Like, just end it there. He's awesome. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Eric Kendricks, this was almost a +2, but he's actually really struggling with his missed tackles. That was kind of the big thing early on when I was saying that Kendricks needs to be in that best linebacker in football conversation, and he still does. But the big reason he got himself there over the first 2 months of the season was he was playing better run defense, playing more physical, and tackling at a more consistent basis than he ever had. And that those issues he's not like a terrible tackler or anything, but it's not like you're talking about Bobby Wagner here or Levante David, who just very rarely miss a tackle. Those things have crept back in with Eric Kendricks, but I do think Kendricks is pretty clearly the best coverage linebacker in the entire league. He's like a more refined version of what the Falcons have in Deion Jones. So Kendricks is going to go up. He had 2 really nice picks the last 2 weeks. This guy's just so instinctive as a linebacker. I almost said cornerback, but sometimes he jumps routes and sees routes developing like a corner sometimes. And then speaking of corners, Chris Jones is going to go up 4. This was a random pickup. Good eye by Mike Zimmer. He felt he needed a more physical outside corner, and they found that in Chris Jones. He actually had a great game against the Carolina Panthers. Not the best athlete out of Nebraska, but he's playing really tough. He's tackling well. He's not giving up huge plays. So Chris Jones, probably nothing there, but he has sufficed for a group of corners that needed some veteran help, I think, and they found it off of like Arizona's practice squad, I want to say. But then Cameron Dantzler, +1, 68 to a 69. He's getting a lot of playing time. He's been okay. The secondary is rounding out a little bit. Nothing crazy. It's still not a strength, but they have stepped up in recent weeks. All right, so there's the NFC. You can see why I needed to split this thing up over an hour recording here. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you hit that like button. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm going to get to work on the AFC. It'll be done when it's done. I'm going to try to get it up this afternoon. I might hit a wall. We'll see. This is a lot. I've already been up since 6 a.m. in the morning working on this. So we'll see when we get the AFC up. I do plan on doing a live stream tonight with our Detroit Lions rebuild on TFG Plays on my Twitch, which is twitch.tv/ThatFranchiseGuy. That is going to be at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. So I am looking forward to that. And I'm also going to upload the first episode, the first stream of that rebuild over on my TFG Plays YouTube channel. So go check that out if you just watched this whole thing and you need something to do while you wait on the AFC. But until then, guys, cheers, and we'll see you later. Peace out.